Hey guys, welcome to the Forge. So I'm just going to do a quick series of videos where we're going to look into how to foot map, how to interpret the foot mapping, and then how we go away and we build a shoe to match that foot. So in order to do that, we need to understand what foot mapping is. We're going to go over how we actually foot map. We're then going to look into how to interpret the foot mapping, how we then calculate our length of material or material choice, what material we're going to use that's going to be appropriate for that size of foot, and then we're going to look at the fundamentals of shoemaking. We're going to look at your toe bends, forming your heels, forming your branches, stamping your nail holes, and then finally going over your clipping. So it's going to be, I'm going to try and keep it as relatively short as I possibly can. But yeah, this is just understanding the basics of shoemaking, or the basic fundamentals of shoemaking, and this applies. We're going to be using, for this example, we're going to be using concave section, which is a popular section here in the UK, used for leisure horses and hunt horses, with variations in the heels, depending on what sort of discipline you're shoeing. So let's have a little look at foot mapping first. We'll then go over the interpretation of that, and then we'll go over to the anvil and the fire, and we'll do some shoemaking. So let's get to it. Okay, welcome to the foot mapping. So foot mapping is a way of using the external landmarks of the foot in order to determine where that center of rotation is about the coffin joint. Now the coffin joint, the center of rotation of the coffin joint is right in the middle here, where the P2 articulates with P3 and the navicular sesamoid at the back here. So that is the center of rotation, and as this sits inside the hoof capsule, that point is going to be around here somewhere, but we need a theoretical point on the solar aspect in order to achieve balance. And balance is not, this is not the only way we achieve balance. Balance, we need to take it in the 3 dimensions that it is, or 4 dimensions if we want to include time, but we'll save that for another series of videos. So, okay, so we foot map in order to determine where these internal anatomical structures are. Okay, so firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to determine where the centre of this foot is. We're going to run a line right up through the central sulci of the frog, right up through the apex and up towards the toe. So we'll just quickly do that now. Okay, so we've bisected the foot into 2 equal halves. What we want to do then is find out where the true origin of heel is. And now, the true origin of heel is not the heel buttress. This here is the heel buttress. What we want to do is take a line that goes back to the widest part of the frog and determines where our heel origin is. So it tends to be a little bit further back. On this specimen here, this would be our heel buttress, and our heel origin is back here with the widest part of the frog, where the heel is actually originating from. Okay, so from there we then run parallel lines with our central line up towards the toe. Same on both sides, keeping it nice and parallel. Okay, so we've now got 3 lines on the foot. What we need to do is we need to work out where the inner border of the white line is. Now the white line originates from the distal fringe of the pedal bone, and the inner border of that is always a true representation of where that bone is within the hoof capsule. The outer border will distort depending on how the wall grows. If you've got any flares or you've got a long elongated toe, it will pull that white line and get stretching of the white line, but the inner border is always a true representation of where that pedal bone is. So we need to determine that with our knives. We need to par out any necrotic sort of white line. We need to find whether we have live, healthy white line. So on this drawing here, we're going to assume this border here, inside this line, is where we have our white line. And what we want to do, we want to run a perpendicular line across the foot, bisecting those 2 just like that. So we're finding out where these points are, here and here, and later on they're going to become our toe pillars, and they're going to become where we put our toenails. Okay, so I just want to run diagonal lines from that point Now back to where our heel origin is. And as you can see, we're building this box about the foot. Okay. This is the point of interest, and this is the point, or the theoretical point of where that center of rotation is. So let's put that on, and it tends to be at the widest part of the foot. Okay. So this is what we call our center of rotation. In an ideal world, everything in front of this center of rotation should be an equal measurement to everything behind the center of rotation. I don't think it's actually achievable on the vast majority of horses, but I think that if you can achieve a 60-40 split, 60% in front, 40% behind, you'd be closer to a bit more realistic, or even 55-45. If that's not achievable through the trim itself, we need to make that consideration with our shoe fit and our shoe placement on the foot. Okay, so in order for me to now, I've mapped this foot, I want to now go and make a shoe. I need to take some measurements of here. So I want to take the width measurement, which is 5.5 inches wide. I want to take a length measurement, and I go from the apex of the toe here back to where I want to fit. Now, depending on the style of fit you're aiming to achieve, whether it's a leisure fit or if it's a hunter fit, this is where you need to be making that decision before you take this measurement. But for the purpose of this, we're going to go for a leisure fit. So I'm going to give maybe 1/4 inch past beyond the heel buttress, and I'm going to measure that now. And that measures 6.25. So 6.25 inches long. I'll take a heel measurement, and that is from the buttress of both sides. That is heel measurement, and that's 2.75 inches. Now, as these 2 points line up with our toe pillars, what we can do is we can either take our calipers and actually place it on the foot and set our calipers up where we're going to be marking our toenails. So we know when we put them in, they're going to be nice and symmetrical and balanced. Or if we know that that is our heel width, we can divide that by 2 and set our calipers up to that measurement. Okay, in order to work out what length of section we're going to cut, what we need to do is we need to add these two figures together. We need to add a standardized figure for the toe bend radius, and we also need to work out what the distortion is in that foot. Now, an ideal foot tends to be a 1/4 inch distortion. So if it's 5 inches wide, it'll be 5.25 inches long. So if we're going to work out what this distortion is, we've actually got so 5.5 wide. In a normal foot, the length would be 5.75. However, we've got 6.25, so there's still another 1/2 inch distortion in this foot. So we need to add that 1/2 inch into this total. So let's add these up now. It gives us 11.75 inches. But we're going to nice bold toe on this foot, so we're going to give it 2 inches for a toe bend. 2 inches for our toe bend. Takes us to 11, 12, 13.75 inches. And then we need to add the distortion, which we've already calculated at 1/2 inch. So that takes us up to 14.25 inches. Okay. So we now know that is the length of section we need. Now we need to determine what section we want to use. So looking at this foot, where we did our original line across, bisecting the white line, and to work out where the toe pillars are, we'll just run another line across the tip of the toe, and And what we're going to do is measure from there back to work out what our section is, and we're just under an inch section. It's between 7/8 of an inch, 7/8 of an inch and an inch. So depending on what section you were going to use, whether you were going to use a flat section, you'd probably go for inch by 3/8, say, inch by 3/8. Or if you want to use a concave section, we can use 7/8 by 3/8, or even 7/8 by half, depending on how much material you'd want in your shoe. If it was a hunter fit, maybe you'd go for a slightly thicker shoe in order to give it a nice purchase of the ground. If it wasn't going to be wearing out that section, you didn't want to put too much weight into the shoes, you could go for a thinner section, maybe go for your 3/8 section. So, okay, so we're going to go for 7/8 by half, and we need to be cutting 14¼ inches. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll go over to the anvil, we'll start making the shoe, and we're going to go over how we build this shoe from the toe bend, heels, forming our branch, stamping our nail holes, and then clipping them. Okay? Okay guys, so we're now at the anvil. I've cut 14¼ inches of, I've actually gone for 7/8, 3/8 for this section. So I've cut that to 14¼ inches, so I'll just make note of what that was. 14¼ inches. But it's good to have the actual measurements of the foot at your fireplace. So if we know that the foot was 5½ wide and 6¼ long, a good little tip would be to put that onto your anvil. So if I go 5½, using a bit of chalk, I can make a mark on my anvil at 5½, and I can put a little W next to that for width, and then I go 6¼ again, another line on the anvil, and put an L next to that. My heels were 2¾ inches, I can do the same for them, heels, and a little H. So what that allows, because I won't really be doing too much forging down here, these lines will hopefully stay on there. Once that shoe is made, I can check, does it fit the length, does it fit the width, and are the heels at the right position. So just a quick little guide just to help you as you're going along. So the fire's ready to go, and I've cut my section. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to mark the center of the section. Now, with the front shoes and even the hind shoes, you want your inside to be a fraction shorter. Or what you want to actually do is run your inside up a fraction on your inside branch, but by running that inside section up to prevent any sort of brushing injuries, you're actually going to make the material, or you're going to draw that branch a fraction longer than your outside branch. So in order to combat that, you need to offset your center mark, and we tend to go with 1/4 inch. The mistake a lot of people make is they'll find their center and then they'll offset it by 1/4 inch. But because you've done that to one side of that mark, you're actually doubling your measurements. So you're now 1/2 inch. Next minute your shoe will come out and you'll find that your outside's ridiculously long and your inside's really short. So you need to half that again. So if you're going to use 1/4 inch, you need to go through 1/8 inch to offset it about your center point. So let's just determine where our center is. So if our overall length is 14¼ Yep, our centre is going to be 7 1/8. Where's my hammer? So 7 1/8 is going to be dead on. I want to offset it. I'm going to put my outside to my right hand side. So I'm going to come to 7 inches. I'm going to put a nice little mark on there, and then I'm going to put another mark on the longer outside branch, just so I know. So 2 marks. Okay. So for the rest of this, I'm going to change the angle of the camera, and we're going to come in, focus here on the anvil, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over each individual part of the shoemaking, from the toe bend, forging our heels, putting the branch on, putting our nail holes in, stamping them with the pritchel, stamping them and pritcheling through, and then we're going to put on our toe clip. So let's do that now. Let's get the fire going. So just as you've just seen me done, I put this center mark on, and as I said, if we just put the ruler next to it, you'll see that it's 14¼ inches long. 14¼ halved is 7 inches and 1/8, and I've actually marked 1/8 of an inch off center, so it's bang on, or should be bang on, 7 inches, which will make this branch longer than this. So I need to make sure when I put on my inside heel, I run this section up just to get that length of section back. But if you just want to, if we measure it, 7, we'll measure here, 7¼ Okay. So let's get it hot, right? When we put a toe bend on, especially for a front shoe, we want a nice toe radius. We want a nice bold toe like we saw in the drawing. So I'm going to take a heat that's going to cover the middle third of this shoe. If I have a narrow heat, I'm going to get a narrow toe bend. So I want to achieve a nice bold toe bend. So I'm going to go for a nice wide heat. I'm going to try and at least the middle third, if not a fraction more. When I then start forging this shoe, I'm not going to hit this toe center mark here because that'll put a point in my toe. I'm actually going to hit either side of it. I'm going to be hitting the material here and here just to try and create that nice arc to that toe bend. So, and whatever I do on this side, I'm going to try and repeat on this side so I get a nice radius to the toe bend. So just to demonstrate where you need to get your heat, you can see here's my center mark. I've got a nice even distribution of heat either side of it. So when I put this toe bend in, hopefully I'll get a nice symmetrical toe bend, balanced. You can see where this is touching the anvil now, how it sucked the heat out of this bit. Because it was hot, it actually bent as I was moving it in the fire. So you can see any time that the shoe is on the anvil will suck out the heat of the material. So you need to be acting quick. But yeah, so you want to be going from these marks either side, a nice uniform heat right the way across. So let's get it back in the fire, and I'm going to put this toe bend in. Always keep your section nice and clean with a wire brush. Okay, so we're on the anvil, I'm keeping it locked, and I'll just work that toe bend either side of that mark. Keeping it nice and flat at all times. Spin the section round, making sure I work this side. Okay, so this is what we want to achieve. We can see where our center dot is, and we can see we've got a nice toe radius around there. The branches are coming off evenly, symmetrically. And what we'll do now is where we see gap in between here, or where it correlates with our actual calipers that we set up from the foot mapping, we can now put that on, and we can mark where we're going to put either toenail. So I'll just quickly do that now, mark the toenails, and then we'll get the outside branch warm and we'll start forging this outside heel. So we want a nice white heat on there, and what we're going to do is we're going to close up the fuller in and encourage them to weld together. As you can see, slowly either side, and then work it back into itself. Keeping it nice and flat. Working your fish slips back in. Nice and flat. Okay. So if the lens is still working, hopefully it is. So what you can see is the following has been welded together. We've got a nice flat, well, pretty much the concave section now forms all the way around. The foot side of it is nicely formed. We've maintained the section of thickness all the way down. It's nice and flat, both sides, and we've got a nice, no corners to it. We've got a nice rounded edge. That's a nice outside heel. All it'll need now is to hit that with a rasper fraction, just to take those sort of little fish lips out of there, and that's ready to go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a heat up to our toenail, and we're going to form this outside branch. What I do want is I do want some residual heat going up into this toe, because as I start to form this branch, I want this to still come round. I want that radius to be gradual all the way around. Okay, we've got nice heat in here now. I'm going to use the bick of the anvil to form this branch, taking into consideration the shape of the foot that we drew before. Keeping it tight against the bick of the anvil. I like to go gradually, checking I'm not overturning that branch. Okay. Keeping it flat, lining it up. Okay, so I've got a bit of heat in this shoe still. So I've got a bit of heat in here, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to line those two toenails up on the edge of the anvil, so the shoe is balanced around the toenail line, and I'm going to use the widest part of the shoe to place my heel nail. Now heel should fall, the outside nail hole should fall on the center of rotation line. As we noted before, it was the widest part of the foot. So I'm going to stamp 3 nails in this shoe, and then my middle nail just goes right in the middle of those 2 nail holes. So I go through a couple of times, putting a bit of pitch onto the nails. And then I get my pritchel over the hardy hole and I clear out the bottom of it. Once should be enough. Okay, so we have our outside branch on. It's a fraction tighter in the toe, but I don't need to worry about that just yet, because when I put that toe clip on, it'll actually open that toe up. So the nail holes are in, out to the widest part, we forge the heel. I'm going to do exactly the same now on the inside branch. Okay, same sort of thing. This time, I just want to run it up a fraction, knocking off that outside edge. And then go straight into forming your heel, knocking each edge over. Keep it flat. Okay, so a similar sort of thing to before. We want nice rounded edge, a little bit of frog check, running that section up a fraction but keeping it nice and flat for the foot surface. And then you can see how that edge is knocked over a fraction, knocked over, narrowed up, nicely formed at the end. And then again, we just touch that with a rasp just to tidy it up a little bit. So you can see how the inner branch just narrows up a fraction, whereas the outside branch, you keep it nice and bold. Okay, so again, same sort of thing. We're going to take a heat all the way up to the top, keeping a bit of heat into this toe bend so it flows round nice with the shoe. Okay, again, nice and clean. Cleaning off all that scale. Good. Heat up into the toe there, and again, round the back of the anvil. And I'm hitting past the anvil. I don't want to squash the section on the anvil. Okay, and then same as before, we line the toenails up. Now we're looking at the widest part of the foot, but on the inside branch we don't want to come too far back. So we want to come half a nail hole in front of that line towards the toe. So half a nail hole, mark it. Same again for your center nail, and then work your way through them all. Still plenty of heat in here. You don't want it too hot that it mushrooms your stamp. And you want a nice, clean, sharp. Just quickly level it off. And then if you can see, the nail holes are in the outside branch up to the widest point, fraction in front. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a heat, just localize it to this center mark, and we're going to pull our clip. Again, clean the section, keeping it scale free. And for the purpose of today, I am going to use a bob punch, and I'm going to draw out a nipple of material that I can then pull the clip from. So centered it down towards the bottom edge there. So I'm aiming this down at an angle to create a little nipple of material here that for the sake of this, I'm going to get another heat on it. And then I can just forge that down to form that clip, not taking too much of that concave section away from the shoe. I want to keep as much as I can there. I just want to take this little bit and pull the clip. Okay, so find a nice sharp corner on the anvil. I tend to grip one edge of the shoe, and I use the round side. Flat side. Okay, so it's a fraction narrow. But what you're trying to achieve at the bottom of your anvil, at the bottom of your hammer, is you're trying to pull that clip to form that sort of pyramidal shape. So what I'll do now, I just set this camera up so you guys can see it. So I'll just work this now back into the section using the flat part of my hammer. Okay. And clean up behind it and level the shoe. Okay, if that'll focus. Okay, so we've got a nice pyramid shape, relatively nice thickness. We haven't distorted the section too much. We've worked it back in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is the shoe's pretty much formed, as the shoe's pretty much formed, as you can see, I'm going to take one final heat and just finish it off, finish all the edges, go through my nail holes again, make sure everything's ready to go, and I'm going to compare it to my measurements that are on the anvil here, check the size, and we'll cool it off, and then we'll go and have a look on the board. Okay, nice overall heat. I'll clean the shoe up. Okay, so I want to check my width. Okay, it's a fraction wide. What's my length like? Length is pretty much on the money. Heel width. Okay, fraction wide. So I just need to close the shoe up a little. So I'm going to lock it in on the toenail either side and just give it a crack or two. What I do on one branch, I always try and do to the other branch. Go through my nails one more time. Clear them out with a quick tool. Check my measurements again. Okay, nice on the width. My length, yep. Heel, perfect. Don't forget, I haven't been to the foot yet. I'm just going to flatten some of these nail holes. And just run through with my back ritual, just to square them all up, just a tap. Okay, so there we have it. Let's go and have a look at the fit. Okay, so, moment of truth. So we've got the foot, we've made the shoe, just dried it off, we've cooled it off, the shoe's ready to go, and if we place it on here, voila. There we go. So, this hasn't been to the foot yet. Straight away, I can see that this shoe is going to fit this foot. It's going to need a little tweak, but not a great deal. It just needs this outside, bringing out a fraction. If we're going to go for a leisure fit, depending on the shoeing cycle, whether it's 4 weeks, whether it's 8 weeks, we need to allow for some growth of that foot. But looking back, my nail placement probably could have come a fraction further back. As it is an elongated foot, we already know that because of the distortion calculation. And the shoe's not perfect, but the point of this exercise is not shoemaking exercise, it's to demonstrate the foot mapping protocol, how you can foot map the shoe, how you can foot map and how you can build the shoe from that and reduce the amount of times you go from the foot to the ankle. So here we go, it fits on. A few little alterations now just to make that sweet. Hit it with a rasp if you want to polish it up a little bit, put a nice, box those heels off a little bit, but all in all, that's a job done. Okay, I hope you were able to learn something from that, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another series of videos. Take care.